All right, good morning. So the book that we are going to start reading, and I'm going to read to you today, but you are going to be doing some of this reading as well. Excuse me. It's called The 100 Dresses, and I absolutely adore the message, the theme in this story, and you're going to figure out the theme along the way. This book was written 77 years ago, so it's an old book. It's twice as old as I am. Almost. It's written by Eleanor Estes and illustrated by Louise Slobodkin. And I think this story is really important for the time period and really important for what we could all learn or take away from this story. And we're really going to be focusing on that theme or message. We're really going to be focusing on the actions the characters take in the story, because small actions can really have huge consequences, right? So not just their actions, but those cause and effect relationships in there. So we're going to be talking about that a lot. The first chapter is really goes back in it's in the future and then the story goes back in time, so we change our setting a little bit in time. So in the first chapter here, it just introduces the characters and kind of gives you an idea of a possible problem. All right, the 100 dresses. Excuse me, I still have a cough. All right, chapter 1 is called Wanda. Follow along as I read. Try to follow my words in the text. Today, Monday, Wanda Perchonsky was not in her seat. But nobody, not even Peggy and Madeline, the girls who started all the fun, noticed her absence. Think about Peggy and Madeline. They started all the fun. Usually Wanda sat in the next to the last seat in the last row in room 13. She sat in the corner of the room where the rough boys who did not make good marks on their report cards sat. The corner of the room where there was most scuffling of feet, most roars of laughter when anything funny was said, and most mud and dirt on the floor. So think about that section right there. She sits in the corner of the room where the naughty boys are and the kids who are dirty from playing outside or working hard when they're home. So I wonder if this is kind of the not popular corner. Wanda did not sit there because she was a rough and noisy. On the contrary, she was very quiet and rarely said anything at all. And nobody had ever heard her laugh out loud. Sometimes she twisted her mouth into a crooked sort of smile, but that was all. Nobody knew exactly why Wanda sat in that seat unless it was because she came all the way from Boggins Heights and her feet were usually caked with dry mud that she picked up coming down the country roads. Maybe the teacher liked to keep all the children who were apt to come in with dirty shoes in one corner of the room. Do you think a teacher would really put all the kids who live on dirt roads out in the country in one corner? Do you think that's fair? Do you think that's something a teacher would do? Or do you think there's another reason Wanda might be sitting in the back corner? But no one really thought much about Wanda Perchonsky when she was in the classroom. The time they thought about her was outside of school hours. At noontime when they were coming back to school, or in the morning early before school began, when groups of 2 or 3 or even more would be talking and laughing on their way to the schoolyard. Then sometimes they waited for Wanda to have fun with her. The next day, Tuesday, Wanda was not in school either. And nobody noticed her absence again, except the teacher and probably Big Bill Byron, who sat in the seat behind Wanda's and who could now put his long legs around her empty desk, one on each side, and sit there like a frog to the great entertainment of all in his corner of the room. So it said there that sometimes they waited for Wanda to have fun with her. I wonder if Wanda was having fun with them. Maybe wanted to have fun with her outside school, but don't even notice she's gone when she's in school. That's interesting. But on Wednesday, Peggy and Maddie, who sat in the front row along with other children who got good marks and didn't track in a whole lot of mud, did notice that Wanda wasn't there. Peggy was the most popular girl in school. She was pretty, she had many pretty clothes, and her auburn hair was curly. Maddie was her closest friend. The reason Peggy and Maddie noticed Wanda's absent was because Wanda had made them late to school. They had waited and waited for Wanda to have some fun with her. And she just hadn't come. They kept thinking she'd come any minute. They saw Jack Beggles running to school, his necktie askew and his cap at a precarious tilt. They knew it must be late, for he always managed to slide into his chair exactly when the bell rang, as though he were making a touchdown. Still, they waited 1 minute more and 1 minute more, hoping she'd come. But finally, they had to race off without seeing her. The two girls reached their classroom after the doors had been closed. The children were reciting in unison the Gettysburg Address, for that was the way Miss Mason always began the session. Peggy and Maddie slipped into their seats just as the class was saying the last lines. That these dead shall not have died in vain, that the nation shall under God have a new birth of freedom, and the government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from this earth. They are reciting a speech from Abraham Lincoln, who I think believed that all men should be created equal. So I wonder why that would be something that teacher would start the day with. I wonder if these kids treat each other as equals. I wonder why they were waiting for Wanda to have fun with her. Interesting. Chapter 2 is called The Dresses Game. So we learned who Wanda was. She's a girl that's just not there. The girls are always waiting for her. Peggy and Maddie, the popular girls, the pretty girls, are always waiting for her to get there to school. They ignore her when they are in school. Here's Wanda here, coming down the country road. That looks like a very small, old house. I wonder if the time period is in the past, looking at some of these desks. I mean, they would wait for her to have fun with her. I'm really thinking about what that means, what kind of kids Peggy and Maddie are, and maybe why Wanda comes to school maybe dirty and hides in the back corner and is really quiet and no one's heard her laugh. These are all character traits I want to think about as we come to learn tomorrow about the conflict.